More than a quorum. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is, oh my God, I'm so impressed, 8:30 on January the 9th, 2020. All right, Courtney will not be here today because she is a newly enrolled member in the Cape Leadership Institute, which is a once a month, well, 20 years ago when I did it, once a month we went to different venues on different topics, and each member set up their own topic, and it gives you not only an overview of Cape Cod, but it gives you the opportunity to make connections with people that you will use going forward in your professional career. So I found it very useful.
That's great.
Way back in the day when Rex sent me to it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ancient history.
Oh, yeah, well, and these will start with our, whoops, local comprehensive plan committee agenda for the day. And then we have 2 sets of minutes to approve. There you go, pass those down. And also Mike Travato is unable to be here today because he has a home consortium meeting at county.
Well, it's good. Well, see, people are getting into the larger picture, which
Absolutely,
I think is
and I think
very
Mike's really
important.
comfortable with being at the county because he, has done that regularly.
Right.
So I think that's good.
It is, I think, good.
All right, let's start with the minutes of December 3rd. I'll give you each a chance to read them over because it is over a month ago.
I read them online.
Okay, my only correction is on the second page in the last paragraph, where it says Travato asked if it would make sense for the group to reference the 2008 bulletin points. I have a feeling that Courtney was a victim of autocorrect,
Right.
and it should be bullet points.
Bullet points, right.
And also, I need someone to take rough minutes today, because I can't, while I'm trying to run this, so
I can do it.
thank you, Mac. Any other corrections, additions?
I move that we accept the minutes of December 3rd
As corrected?
as corrected.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye, it's unanimous. Jay, you did vote for it, right?
I was-
Oh, you're abstaining?
Yeah, I wasn't.
Okay. So it's 1, 2, 3, 5 in favor. Anybody opposed? 1 abstention, 501. All right, next is December 17th.
I move that we accept the minutes of December 17.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain. It's 402. All right, so the minutes are done, and I will let Courtney know about the correction, and then they can be submitted. All right. I don't know if any of you noticed last week, Courtney handed me this box. And it was the paperwork that Brian had returned to Dan about a year ago. And it contained a number of interesting things in terms of what we're doing today about goals. So I made copies for each of us of what was in the box.
Thank you for doing that.
Oh, you're welcome. I think it'll help us as I'm gonna pass that one down. All right, so that is number 1. And then I have a single pager, which is always nice. Oops. Oh, I haven't made copies of this. Who is the open space person? Me. No.
Yeah.
here's the list. Just had the minutes, what did I do with them? I'm getting a little spacey here. Here we are. Open space. There's no specific person assigned to open space.
Me.
Oh, I didn't read it, thank you, Jan. So I have this for an open space one as well. Would you like me to make copies for everybody of this as well? This is from the 2016.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, I will go put those in.
I mean, I don't remember what it looked like.
And I don't either, but this is just for reference. It isn't
Right.
like these are going to be driving us, but.
Right. Well, it's good to know where you're starting from.
And a lot of the stuff that we thought we had to do has been done. Well, that's doing its thing. I also found a so for current people, Mac, and I didn't put your name on this, which is something we have to start doing.
Oh, yeah, neither did I.
Right, so everybody write Mac on this one, as you get it. When I filed it in my computer, I put your name on it, but I didn't think about the document.
Is it another one?
No, it's more of the same. I just didn't hand you one of them to start with.
And
I think we should have had this in the first place, right? These are the same.
yeah, it would have been
would've
nice,
been
but we
really
didn't.
helpful.
We didn't.
Yeah,
So there you go.
yeah.
Um,
We could start all over again.
I think we can make a first pass at things today.
Oh,
And also Bonnie sent me her 28-page amended document, which I decided not to copy for everybody because it's a lot of paper. And it would be duplicative of what we have already copies of. Because she did not make a note on each page. It was just the ones that her assignment was relevant to.
yeah, sure is.
That's mine.
Yeah, you can have them.
Yeah. I only had there's only one. We should have broken that whole.
Well, that shows that we have to do it.
And then last but not least, we have a shell fishing one.
Yeah. I was just sitting at this. There's a lot of stuff.
An awful lot was open space and natural resources in that, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know it's a lot of paper, and I apologize.
Yeah. You.
Does anybody, I haven't heard from Jennifer. Anybody know if Jennifer's gonna be here today?
She's a FAMS meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, if we look at the minutes of the 17th, it has a listing of who's responsible, and I would recommend that, because Bonnie isn't able to be here today, and she did a lot of work, that we move her section to the next meeting and start with Mac. If you'd like to lead us through your document, that would be great.
Sure, and essentially what I did was see what the Herring River goals were in 2008 and what we accomplished. I did not get in touch directly when I wrote this recently with anybody on the Herring River committee, so I'm sure this could be modified.
Right, it's a good start.
It's a good start, but it was interesting to go back because the stuff that they put on there in 2008 seemed just unattainable. I don't know, it just seems so much, and it was amazing how much has been accomplished. Obviously, it's been 10 years, but quite a bit has obviously been accomplished. So where it is now is the restoration plan itself has been completed. I think there's still some private property issues that are outstanding. Addressing the issues of impacts to town roads and other infrastructure still needs to be completely worked out. One thing I didn't mention on here was the relationship with Truro.
Right.
And that is obviously something that,
Squeaky.
exactly, it's hard to specifically address because,
Yeah, they backed out of one component of the MOU maybe 6 months ago, but
Yeah.
I don't remember the details.
Well, it's all has to do with liability.
yeah.
Right.
Right, well, they thought their piece was so small that they
Yeah.
didn't want to
Yeah.
pick up the
Taking any of
liability.
that,
Yeah,
So continuing the work on the MOU with Truro in the Cape Cod National Seashore. Identify any additional hydrodynamic modeling or other studies to accurately predict rising water levels and water quality, as well as, and I added this from my experience with some of the fishermen, as well as sediment movement. So the sediment is something that is a concern of the fishing community. I'll work to secure state and federal funding for the overall project.
Don't they have that map?
I am not entirely sure.
I thought they had the funding promised, but maybe not.
I think they still need to raise a considerable amount.
Yeah?
Actually, yeah, I went, they gave me a brief overview a few weeks ago at the Friends of the Herring River. So they need to appropriate a good portion of money to
Right.
get through some of the phases.
Yeah, they got enough money to start the process.
Right.
Right.
They have enough money for permitting, environmental permitting, but they still need a lot for actually
There is a lot.
implementation.
Yeah, my understanding is they're about at 15 to 20% achieved funding at this point.
I thought they had a promise, but.
Yeah, promise. I think they've had a number of promises. But
Mhm.
it's a bit of a chicken and the egg because
Yeah.
you have to be dig ready to get some of this stuff, and I don't think they're actually dig ready.
Right.
Continue evaluation and planning of waterways such as Mayo Creek, Blackfish Creek, with the goals of wetlands restoration. So that's a little bit different than just the Herring River project, but that's part of what their goals were back then, and I think that's a continued issue to address.
Mhm.
So then moving on to the alternative, at the time, which was the Alternative Energy Committee, now it's the Energy and Climate Action Committee. I sat on the Alternative Energy Committee and we were more focused on immediate things like we did quite an extensive study of the Whitecrest area for a turbine. We put up a test tower,
yeah.
we got all the data for that whole project, and then it got shot down at town meeting, essentially. We also at the time looked into solar panels and what could be done, and we've done a few things in town, which is great. Obviously, that's moved forward. But I would sort of like to introduce, and I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Carol Magno.
Carol.
Karen,
if-
can you pull your chair up so that we're not on the outskirts? As a guest to the meeting, thank you.
So what I did with the information here is basically copy and paste it from the town website because it was very thorough and in the charge of the committee and the goals that were on there. But perhaps you'd like to expand upon any of the things that I've put down already.
Well, I don't have a copy of that, first off.
Oh,
There you go.
Here.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I'll just read through it. The goal is to reduce the community's contribution to climate change with a focus on ensuring our energy infrastructure is cleaner, leaner, and more resilient to prepare, coordinate, and execute mitigation actions and adaptation strategies that anticipate and respond to the effects of climate change. This will include establishment of energy and emissions inventories for the town and setting up goals for energy and emissions reductions, which, by the way, was one of the things in the 2008 matrix, was identify all the energy uses in town where savings could occur, which is the next one. Assessment of the scope for energy conservation for the renewable energy use in town buildings and by transport. recommendation of feasible projects for energy conservation and for renewable energy use, review of town bylaws to promote energy conservation, renewable energy use, educational outreach for Wellfleet citizens, formulate and advance mitigation adaptation strategies as outlined in the 2018 Wellfleet Comprehensive Plan, Section 10, on climate change mitigation and adaptation strategies, educate and engage residents.
I have a question though. If
Yeah.
it references the 2018 Wellfleet Comprehensive Plan, there is no 2018 Wellfleet Comprehensive Plan.
So-
I was wondering.
It would be 16, I mean, the one. we
Could it be
had, the
2008?
amended.
Because you said there was language in the
It must
2000.
be the 2008,
I think it might just be a typo and read 2008.
yeah.
I,
Yeah.
So I didn't go and try to reference that because it wasn't,
well, the good thing is
It
that
couldn't be 18, we know that, yes.
it didn't happen.
We're working on it.
It might be in a draft somewhere, which would be great, a goal from one of the meetings. But it wasn't the plan.
Section 10, it even references, so do we have a section 10 in, not in
so
this?
let me see.
It's in
Yeah.
this,
Yeah, that's
this
the
packet that
2008.
you.
Yeah, it's in the results, the data and the goals gathered in the public meeting on
Okay,
climate change.
so then it would be 16.
No, it says
Well, what it would,
18.
Well, I think-
it
I think
shouldn't,
so.
it doesn't really matter, it could say from the goals and from the public meeting in 2018, whatever. but-
Well, I think it's actually, right now that I looked it up, this is the
Okay.
plan.
Uh-huh.
Section 10 is alternative energy and
Okay,
energy
well,
conservation.
so maybe it's just a,
2008.
so it's
Yeah.
2008
So it's
typo
2008.
only, that's good, excellent.
Someone probably was writing that said it couldn't be 10 years old.
How silly.
Right. So with that said, would you like to add?
No, that looks good.
Carol, just as a little sidebar, once we get a draft, it will go out to each committee concerned with any section of the draft
Okay.
for your review of that committee and input. So this is not just gonna
Not
happen
the
on its
final
own.
change.
It's not gonna happen on its own.
And I think one thing to add about the
Climate.
Action Committee is that it obviously has an effect on things like marina development. That this isn't just a isolated place type like downtown or something.
Mhm.
And there's issues all through the town that the climate action has an effect on. So probably worth mentioning that to some degree. It's just the way we're organizing it. It makes sense, like
Exactly.
It's not just it's gonna pop up all over the place. All right, so with nothing to add, should I move on to
Yes, please.
Harbor Marina? So I met with our harbor master, Mike Flanagan. The stuff that was taken directly from the 2008 plan, much of it was accomplished because during that time we just undergone a major renovation of the pier, paving, the boardwalk, many new bulkheads, drainage. This still, he believes we still don't have a planning board member liaison on the Marina Advisory Committee.
Has it been requested?
No. And
Formally?
No, and he said that's not his job to request. He said that's the selectman's job to request. So, and I don't think the selectman will request it unless somebody asks them.
Yeah.
Well, I agree that it's probably not Mike's, but if the Marina Advisory Committee could ask the Board of Selectmen for a planning board liaison, I think that would be the correct
Yeah.
line of authority.
I mean, is the need still there? I'm not sure why the need.
That's why I was gonna ask, why they need a planning board member.
That Mike didn't think that he wasn't asking for it, so he doesn't really know where
Well,
this came from.
I think back in 2008 was about the time that the architect was hired to come up with a plan for unifying the buildings for Harbor Master Shellfish and beach sticker
Was it that
sales.
long ago?
Yeah,
So this is the kind of thing that it can be.
So it does make sense
eliminated.
then.
Well, it was being talked about at that point. The architect may not have been engaged at that point, but it was in the discussion. So that might have been the impetus. And the plans came together and everybody agreed on them and then they were filed, so.
Yeah, and then the whole thing about that sign that was down there blocking the view and everything.
Right.
Yeah,
And,
well,
and everybody got all nervous about redeveloping the marina.
Anything,
I
yeah.
still have the set of plans sitting in my office. I look at it every once in a while.
oh, so do I, yeah.
I thought it was a dynamite plan, but it's not going anywhere.
Except the view shed issue.
That
That is a
but
big deal.
maybe, you know,
It could be in a different spot from where it was chosen.
these are all problems that can be solved. You know,
Well, that's not for today's discussion anyway, but Jay and I can talk endlessly about that.
Well, I think it ties a little bit into this because Mike has very, I kind of told him what would be, as you sit here and see the best future for the marina, kind of almost unlimitless, he has these ideas, which, I'll go through them. I think what most importantly, one of the things that he mentioned obviously is the upgrade of the sanitary facilities, which he has done work to. He wanted to point out he's done quite a bit actually to make them as best they can be for what
Yeah.
they were.
Handicapped.
Yeah.
He's handicapped.
Reaffirm harbor master's authority to implement harbor policies and practices and to police the harbor. That was in 2008, and he thinks that should be an ongoing thing. Establish a Shellfish Museum and Study Center on the marina as part of a larger vision for town to expand its ownership and influence along the waterfront. Investigate non-summer activities for Marina Harbor. Develop an overall recreational plan for Marina and Mayo Beach. Seeking town funds for phase 2 of the marina renovation. He basically said that he was promised a reimbursement that was never received. That was a little sidebar, not necessarily
Right.
part of a plan, but I think this leads to the integration. It might be something worthwhile discussing, but there seems to be a bit of a divide between the harbor and the harbor master's department and essentially the DPW or how the town is run. They're not really lock in step a lot of times, because they provide many of the same services, but they do it individually. So that's something that I don't know how to define that.
Right, there was a discussion in the past, probably 6 or 8 years ago, about the Marina Enterprise Fund in relationship to the general fund. Services provided for the marina by the DPW, because that's 2 separate funding sources. And they were working on a formula to decide how much the Marina Enterprise Fund would owe the town for if the DPW performs certain services. And I have no idea how that discussion came out or why it didn't move forward, but it never happened.
I know we track our expenses, anything that we assist with the harbor master,
Right.
taking out the floats, putting the floats back in, dredging, anything like that. So we keep track of that and give that to them.
Right.
I'm not sure where it goes after that though.
Neither am I, and I know the police were involved, the police response to anything at the marina or fire response. I think it got so convoluted for such a small amount of money that they
Yeah.
decided at the time, I can't speak
Yeah.
for that, but it seems
Yeah.
likely.
Well, I think it is something worthwhile to address where, everybody should be working together towards something, and if it's this micro
Right.
tracking,
I agree. We're such a small town.
but
Yes.
it does come down to a budget line. I mean, when everybody's being held to the budgets and
Right.
hours being spent on things that they're not being reimbursed for, I can see how it also is an issue.
And it's also time, the number of personnel at the DPW is limited, and the number of work hours they can produce for everything.
Right.
So if it goes to the marina, it means that other things that should be done, there's no time for it, let alone money, but it's a work hour.
Time management.
It's a work hour thing, and I mean, I can't solve that, but I think that communication between departments is always a beneficial
Yeah.
thing.
Well,
I mean, planning, not crisis management, but planning.
yeah, and that sort of leads into the funding part of stuff. Also leads into one of the major things. Obviously, it needs to happen in the marina is the dredging, or in the harbor is the dredging, and that's obviously looming over all of this as a huge necessity at this point. And where is that funding coming from, and how much of the town is going to be on the hook for versus the Marina Enterprise
Well,
Fund?
they got some federal funding for the federal channel, but the rest is still,
Right.
It seems like some of the other towns are getting some of this money, but Wellfleet, for some
Right, we
reason,
missed this time.
We
well,
did.
Plymouth got it for 2020, probably because of the Pilgrims, the 400th anniversary, and they have a bigger harbor. So, I mean, that's where this year's, for fiscal 20, that's where some of the money went that we anticipated getting but did not. That's what I heard in the selectmen's meeting. That's open session information. But we're still on we've done everything we're supposed to list, so maybe we'll get
We're ready
funding.
now.
Yeah.
More ready than
Yeah.
we were a year ago, I think.
Yeah.
So just to keep going through the kind of the wish list that he put down there, a boat washing facility. He referenced, making Wellfleet Harbor a world-class destination with its amenities. We have a beautiful harbor, as he, says, we're overlooking a national treasure with, the seashore being out there that will never be developed, and rebuilding the L Pier. I think that's been about 25 years, and it's not in great shape.
It's time
Yeah.
to plan it.
He also provided me with, and I'm not necessarily sure you want to review all of these, but 4 RFPs that he has sent out in September. I thought I had copies. I don't know if I had them with me right now, but essentially an RFP for maintenance, dredging, and equipment plan. RFP for hydrographic survey and dredging volumes. And basically those two refer to an ongoing dredging and maintenance plan. In other words, he's not suggesting that we own the equipment, but that we contract with someone on an ongoing basis, so we're doing this dredging on an annual or biannual.
Maintenance level.
Exactly,
Yeah.
rather than this which now has been 20 years, where it's this massive $10 million project. Or more, don't quote me on that.
I think that might be conservative.
Yeah. Design and permitting of the new above-ground fuel dispensing station. He's brought this up before, but that tank is near the end of its life, and he doesn't think it's worth the additional expense and permitting and liability to put a new one underground. So he's suggesting that we do one above ground. And then the purchase of 3 Kendrick for a municipal building. He actually put an RFP out to create a plan with GEI. All of these actually, the RFPs are all with GEI. I wasn't really familiar with, but they're a planning consulting group. So just in addition, I kind of got him going, and what he essentially would like to see is the town take over the entire waterfront from the harbor master's office all the way down to the end of Mayo Beach, and have at its option a number of different things that can be developed there, which I list. A boardwalk, bathroom facilities, boathouse, the recreation beach department's facilities, the beach sticker office is all rebuilt. Cafes, restaurant, bar, museum, historical, gallery, educational outreach, like bringing Hui in to have a station there, the shellfish department, beach access with some type of coverage gazebo. I don't know if anybody has been to the Herring River Cove.
Herring Cove in P-Town?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful. They have facilities for bath and shower, and then picnic area with a little snack bar there, and then they do music once a week, and it's
And it's particularly nice because those buildings are designed, modular buildings are designed that they can be picked up and moved in the case of water level changes. So that would be sort of a template for the Wellfleet Pier, to have the kind of building that is designed to be movable.
yeah.
Not easily, but movable.
Yeah. And this, going down, he also, he was talking about the parking issue and, how there could be he was talking about underground parking.
Oh, my.
He was
With the
thinking
plans?
big,
That doesn't sound like
I
a
didn't
climate
really-
change plan.
No, because it could be part of this, that he said he said he's seen them in other countries. It's waterfront, and it's part of the mitigation because it provides for stormwater flooding that's intentional.
Wow.
You let it flood, and then it runs off, and so, he's really thought a lot
He's
about this.
done a lot of thinking about this,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
impressive.
But, I think some of the most pressing things are obviously the dredging and,
And I think that once they dredge, I'm envisioning that dredging will happen because it's so necessary. The demand on the harbor will grow because people can bring their boats in, there'll be people who want to use it more. So parking and other amenities are going to be even more in demand
definitely.
once the dredging is finished.
Excuse me, Suzanne, I have to excuse
Yes.
myself. We have a housing authority meeting, but we will be addressing what we
Okay.
passed out today, and I'll kind of follow your
Thank you,
format
Elaine.
to report back.
Thank you.
Will we see you tomorrow at 11, or you'll be
No.
gone? Okay.
I won't be there, but
Happy
have
travels.
have a wonderful time.
Thanks.
Happy winter, Elaine.
Oh, dear.
All right, any other comments on the harbor or shellfishing?
Just that was really very, very well done, I think. You're almost ahead of, since you've talked to the source person, you're almost ahead of everything else.
Well, I think
I
it was
think
really useful because I was sitting
yeah,
there staring at the
yeah.
screen saying this, I know
That was
this
very
isn't
good.
complete, so.
Mhm.
Well, I think that also Michael's been in the position for so long and he's seen the historical progression. His thoughts are particularly valid
Yeah,
in this,
absolutely. Yeah.
project.
So Max, this matrix,
Yep.
so most of these are from this, and then
The-
there's some,
The beginning stuff.
So,
so,
are you talking about like the Herring River?
yeah,
Yeah, all of the Herring River is
is in that
is in this.
matrix,
And
okay.
I just took out the things that were completed, and many of the things are still very, very true. Obviously, you can get way more detail than this
Oh, yeah,
with what needs to happen, but
Yeah.
it was the Herring River was pretty straightforward, and like I said, it was actually impressive to see the things that we have completed. It has been a long time, but
right.
back then it was things were just kind of
Up in the air.
just getting started,
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
and then the alternative, the energy and climate action, that is literally what was on here in the matrix was almost irrelevant because we were the alternative energy committee focused on specific projects in town, not really loftier goals, which is now with the climate. They're almost two different committees completely in
Yeah, they are.
scope. So this is more or less directly from the town website.
That's replacement in a way for the
Yeah.
minor details in the plan 10 years ago.
Yeah. And then the first part of the harbor and marina is from the matrix. Many of those were completed because we were focused on rebuilding the pier at the time. Obviously, it's been rebuilt.
Oh, yeah.
So, many of those things, those goals have been met.
Okay.
I had a hard
Good job.
time, Suzanne, with complete and ongoing in that with the open space, for example, let me just,
Would you like to do your section now, Jan?
oh, okay.
So that way you can just
You
explain
have the
things.
paperwork.
Yes,
Yeah, but
yeah.
I just wanted to say, for example, formulate and complete a plan. Okay, well,
That's,
you know,
I think it's a little too generic.
there was a tremendous amount of that in here. And then there are the kind of things where identify something on the acquisition list. They've done so much, so you'd say, well, that's complete, except, all right, here's the perfect example. Have a yearly State of the Harbor, foster a yearly State of the Harbor event. Well, they've done that. There's a State of the Harbor event every year, but is that also still ongoing? You see, it's complete that they've fostered that, so it's now a habit, but it's
Yeah, I
not,
think it's a good
but it's
question.
ongoing.
What do you guys
So,
think?
you know, it was those kinds of things I was really having fun with. I don't know, but anyway, I can do these things.
Well, I think as it relates, I mean, if we're gonna
What would
relate
you
this back,
say?
well, are we gonna relate this as a place type? Cause this, you know, thinking kind of what the end is gonna look like.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So-
We had talked, you know, when we started this process, you know, I remember everybody was really high on this Brewster Vision thing because it was so easily digestible.
Right.
Small.
And, you know, I'm just having a little issue with having to pigeonhole everything based on a 2008 LCP. I mean, on the thing I wrote on the historic areas, I basically, the first thing I did was look at the 2008 LCP. And I thought it was really instructive. And, but I just, maybe it's just me, you know, I just can't, to look at things, did we do this, is it ongoing, you know, I mean, just pigeonholing everything. But that just might be me, I don't know.
You're saying that that's not a good thing?
Too specific?
No, I think we need to have specifics, but, it can be, I don't know, I'm having trouble, doing
Well,
something.
I think if you look at the matrix, well, one of the headings is action in 2020. So you could list something as ongoing, such as the harbor, annual harbor meeting, and then say, successful to date, continue support of this project, something like that. So you don't have to get all, decide whether it's ongoing or completed.
But I think what Jay means, I think, is that we said we were going to have a couple of pages of each thing
Right.
and not have this. And so I think the exercise of doing this, Jay, I think, is to get our minds around what we need to talk about ongoing and what we can just drop away. We don't have to, just because we're talking about it now, I don't think we have to end up with all those
No,
bullet points
yeah,
that.
I
you know.
agree. I think that my vision was to go through this,
Yeah.
and some of the really generic ones, you can't decide whether it's ongoing or completed or anything because it was too generic. So we just delete them. And I go back to the SMART goal thing. What has to be measurable and achievable.
Okay. You have
Right.
my paperwork, if you want it, you copied it, but you didn't bring it in. Did you
Excuse
want to
me.
pass it out? I mean, I don't
I
know.
do.
I can still go through this list without it,
I'll
but,
be right
okay.
back. Please excuse me.
All right. And we'll start with NR1.
I wish they would say what pages these things.
3, the bottom of 3. I was assigned NR, which is largely Conservation Commission, and OS, which is Open Space, because I was on the Open Space Committee for a million years, and I thought I had a handle on that. And I thought I had friends on the Conservation Commission that I could ask questions of, but I found that I was blocked from that, which was very interesting. A very defensive posture of send us everything in writing and I will bring it to the whole committee to discuss.
Sorry, which committee was that?
Conservation,
Who's the chair now?
Debbie Freeman, and she would not talk to me. She absolutely, I said, I just want, this is just so preliminary, you know?
People are getting so paranoid over
They-
the open meeting law and
exactly.
stuff.
Exactly, and it was just, I said, one-on-one, you and me, just tell me if we have an ACEC plan, if we have, she said, send it all in writing and I bring it to my whole committee and I cannot help you.
Maybe go to Hillary.
Well,
Yeah.
I hate to bother her,
I know.
but I have a call into her for
Yeah.
today. Anyway, I'll give you what I have so far. There
Um,
is an ACEC. Yeah.
Before we start, let's pass these out. One of these, that's the open space work from the 2018 workshops, and this is Jan's matrix. My eyes are beginning to cross, I have so much paper.
I know there's too much paper. I did get to talk
I guess,
Yeah, thank you.
yesterday afternoon with the open space chairman, which was very helpful.
Oh, good.
So that worked.
Excellent.
But the Conservation Commission would, so up to this point, I'm guessing a little bit. But I will try to talk to Hillary, she's just so busy. So NR1, amending the ACEC and all of that, that has been done.
Okay.
NR2, I don't know, I have no information. NR3 is definitely ongoing, the title restrictions. NR4, I have no idea. That's the kind of thing I have to ask Hillary. NR5 is one of these wonderful ones that is being done. It's completed on the one hand, but it's ongoing because it keeps going. NR6 is ongoing. 7, I don't know. 8 is the Harbor Conference one, that's both. 9, I don't know. 10 is complete. You know, we have a town water supply, so implementing a water master plan has been done, that's exciting. 11, the wastewater one, as far as I know, that's not even,
There's a wastewater meeting today at 11 at Town Hall,
Okay.
so I can report back for
that would be interesting to know how
Okay.
that's coming along.
Not
But,
quite sure,
you know,
but-
it isn't to a point, it's been appointed, so, you know, now it's a matter of functioning, right?
I think it's a huge discussion topic.
Yeah.
Not that we don't need it, that's been pretty much established.
Right.
Everybody needs some kind of wastewater management plan, but
Right.
how Wellfleet's going to go about it and how they'll be permitted to go about it.
But they have a committee. They're not appointing and funding an advisory committee.
I think they do.
No,
That
they have
was-
a committee,
That was
yeah.
there, that was done
So,
last
you know,
winter.
things like that
Yeah.
get changed, the wording of them.
They've had a committee for a couple of years, because my brother was on it.
Right,
He's no longer on it. But that is, it is part of as far as addressing this specific concern, then I would say that,
You keep, that's
Yeah.
definitely an
well,
ongoing
yeah,
thing,
exactly,
oh,
it
for
needs to be
sure.
ongoing.
Yeah, but long as we already have one, I
Yeah.
wasn't even sure. I think NR12 is interesting, if you look at that, establish the sustainability of a healthy water resource as a core town value. I mean, absolutely, that's been done. That we wouldn't have town water, I think, if that hadn't been done. So I think 12 is definitely complete. But 13 is another one of those things that so amorphous a thing, educate and publicize improvements that will enhance Wellfleet's water resource.
I mean,
I don't know what to do with that.
Well, that's the type of thing where, trying to educate the public versus, not using pesticides and things on their lawn, or, I'm trying to see what that actually means.
I think the ones that are so generic, we shouldn't even try to define, but identify, as Mac just did, about sections of that, what they may have meant or what would be beneficial. I think that's fine. I don't think we have to try to divine what they were thinking in 2008.
No,
when they wrote that.
I know, because probably some of that has been done. And then 14, I would say that is a complete, the pond monitoring, you probably know more
It's
about
ongoing.
that.
It's a
ongoing?
collaboration between the town and the Cape Cod National Seashore.
Okay.
And there's a loose group called the Ponds Management
Right,
Group.
Right.
And it involves me and Hillary and people from the seashore and the AmeriCorps. And on an annual basis, pond shorelines are addressed, fencing, trails.
okay, so ongoing, change
Ongoing.
that if you would to
It's been ongoing for a long time.
Right, but it's healthy ongoing. It's not just puttering along. It's
active.
active, and actually, it's active to the point where I got an email and a picture from a National Seashore person over the winter and said, I don't know if these stairs are yours or ours, but they need some attention. So that kind of thing means that people are looking at the resource, not the boundary lines, which makes me very happy.
Well, that part's good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, if you could,
Yeah.
we just go back to NR10, that implement on a gradual basis the master water plan
Yeah,
for public water system.
yeah,
I think that's really, we can't close the book on that. I think that's really something, because
well, I know we're right now working on increasing the size of either the Coles Neck piping or, for the new project for housing.
right.
Yeah,
We have to increase
Right.
the volume, but is that the same thing as 10?
Well, then it says identifying granted loan sources, oversight planning, and reorganization of accounting and personal management as needed.
Yeah.
That's really a lot that's going on in there, because
Yeah.
at that time, the water commissioners was relatively new.
Mm-hmm.
Selectmen were the water commissioners,
Right,
and there was just, I remember just being a wish-wash of what was happening.
It's still a little crazy. On these housing meetings, my head has been spinning because there's all these issues. There's two different ways we can get water to the proposed housing project, and one of them would require that the Coles Neck system be upgraded.
which it has to be anyway, everybody's been
Yeah, it
saying.
only has
It's
a
undersized.
4-inch
It's a
main.
4-inch,
Yeah.
Right.
And so, who's our liaison? Jim
Hood,
Jim Hood, right?
he's on the water
He seems to be doing a
commissioners.
great job of looking into this stuff.
Well, he's on the water commissioners.
Yeah, but they're, for some reason, I don't get the sense that they're getting anywhere.
Well, they haven't
I think they're in the process of,
hiring a,
developing an
Consultant.
RFP to hire someone to assess the existing water system and, looking at different attributes of the system, how much they could expand it, how much, looking at the existing infrastructure and all that. So I know that's ongoing right now. I don't know where they're at exactly in the process, but
And then there's also
Yeah.
the outlying areas that are not
town water.
adjacent to town water, such as Rose Hill Road, which has that clay streak that runs from the lights all the way to Nuco Hollow and impacts people's wells. So that there are future areas to be
Right.
developed,
Right,
maybe 20 years down the road. So this is definitely ongoing.
okay, so we'll
Yeah.
change that.
And self-welfare.
My feeling of what it meant versus where we're at, I would just have written a whole new thing.
There's also been issues, I know because I live on Pheasant Run, which is on the old Coles Neck water system.
oh yeah.
And And there's still issues with the fact that this is largely a seasonal town, and no one's using the water.
Yeah, you don't get enough
And the pipes
flush.
get gunk on them, so they have to be
Flushes.
chlorinated
Yeah.
to clean it. You know, like 10 years ago or 20 years ago, maybe not quite that long ago, but Whitewater, when I first set up the new system, Whitewater was involved. And I got to be kind of friendly with the manager, you know, I forget his name, Ray something.
Was it Roy?
Roy.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's higher up now, I think, in the company.
he actually just left.
What? He left?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, good for him.
He went to the Wareham Fire District.
No kidding.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's not surprising when you have a young guy like that.
Yeah, he was great.
He was great.
Yeah.
And he was saying, we gotta do this to the system, we gotta clean it.
Oh, yeah.
Cause
Get sediment buildup.
there's not enough water being used.
Right.
And, so
It
yeah,
also
on-
had a dead end to it too, in the beginning. That original thing came to a dead end at, I think at the,
The Coles Neck?
yeah,
Yeah.
the first one. And so that makes it really tricky too, if you don't get a, you know, total flood. Things have gotten better,
Yeah, but it obviously still needs a lot of work.
Yeah. Well.
And, you know.
definitely. All right, I
So
take
we're
that
all
back,
agreed.
then put
We're
that
all
on going.
agreed.
All right, with open space, OS1, they're very excited. It is complete, that's done. There is something I can say that is complete. The Conservation Trust bought the last piece of Mill Hill. So that was good. Two, comprehensive management plans. According to Bruce Herter, who is the chair, those have been completed. So I, would like to say that that's complete. Three, the annual audit. So it's an annual audit, so obviously that's ongoing, right? But the establishment of it is complete. So the terminology here doesn't exactly work. I'm having trouble with complete.
We're allowed to change this terminology for our own purposes for this plan, just taking the content and the meaning without being tied into the
Right,
language.
because, complete an annual audit, well, that just falls between. OS4, they've done that. They do keep doing it, so you could also say it's ongoing, but they have made a master list of the critical land, and are on the lookout when any of it becomes available for possible purchase to protect the shoreline. And they do have that plan. They have identified the tax title lands, and each year they bring a few of these to town meeting and ask that it go into the aegis of the Conservation Commission. So that's something that's ongoing. We did have about 5 or 6 or 7 years ago a open space symposium at Pres Hall where we educated people. I think there were over 100 people there that time, which was very, very impressive about all the land issues in town. Maybe that should be done again, I don't know. Continue education of population. I mean, again, a generic thing that, sure.
Actually, I have a meeting later today where the building needs a committee where I think we've been asked to make some recommendations on some land that the town wants to, that people want to give to the town and that sort of thing, which Harry sent me a whole bunch of paperwork on it. So,
Good.
There is an internal process now that any kind of acquisition by the town or sale of town land goes through every department for input and
Every
committee.
committee sees it,
Yeah.
right?
So that
Signs off on
you
it.
have the opportunity to
Right.
actually know what's going on
Right,
in somebody else's
right.
department, which is
Right.
nice.
So, again, that, to me, that shouldn't be an initiative because it's already something that's in place. That
Exactly.
it's ongoing, but it's set up.
And it's not in danger of
No,
disappearing.
not that
Right.
anybody knows about.
Right.
Then OS 7, I thought that was kind of an interesting discussion with Bruce. He said they're really not doing it. They're not interested in doing it. So I thought that was this bylaw or subdivision regulation requiring setting aside a certain amount. There's so little action on this. There's no big pieces of land for this to happen.
Right.
So,
And if it's big enough, the commission kicks in.
Actually, we have the 15% coverage rule in the zoning. That's been there for a long time.
yeah, no, this is the idea of setting aside, like cluster zoning. Where
Oh.
you have a piece of land and you put the houses here and you leave, instead of spreading them out, you have, that's a cluster plan. There is one actually, for that project that's still in litigation on,
Oh, on
Payne
the
Hollow
power
Road,
lines.
that's the,
Oh, Payne
no, on
Hollow.
Payne Hollow. There's a 4.96 acre piece that had 6 units on 2 acres, and then the other 3 acres would be left open, and that was this kind of a plan. That's still in litigation. I think it's 12 years old at least, that thing. But anyway, his opinion was that this is just not something that's going on. It's like, why put it in when we're not doing it, we're not seeking it, there's no land that would be appropriate for that. So he kind of
Okay.
felt that it should not be included. We can do what we want, but that's, what he said. Review procedures for approval and assessment of conservation restriction, that's definitely complete, and yet, if there's a new piece of land, Conscom would have to do something about it.
But I think this is more about process. I think the
Yeah,
procedure's in
yeah,
place, so
yeah.
if there's a new piece of
Right.
land, they go to the existing procedure.
True.
So I think it's really accomplished.
Right, okay, I would say, because they were not interested in, he was, didn't want to go on with that. 8 is, I think Conscom has set that all up, as far as we know. 9, I had no idea what to say about this. We were talking about it yesterday morning at a housing meeting. That idea that's been brought up every year, shouldn't we get town boards together to talk about what they're doing? Isn't it important to let the planning board know what the housing authority is trying to do, what open space is trying to do, and so on? And that's what this one is. And as far as he was concerned, initiate and coordinate these cooperative meetings doesn't happen, not going to happen. A funny thing to put here. Now it says that Conscom is the one who should do it, which is really kind of curious, but, well, that it's complete with Conscom. Anyway, he felt that should be just left off. It isn't being done and they're not interested in doing it. The same is true with the bike trail. It's not, he didn't feel, an open space thing. It's under open space, but there's a whole separate committee now that is doing the work. So it shouldn't be an initiative under the Open Space Committee.
Right.
I agree.
You know, and so those kinds of things have changed, I guess, in these 10 years dramatically.
Right.
So anyway, all right, to continue, let's see, 10 we said is ongoing, no, 10 is complete. That is part of the ACEC plan, and that one is pretty complete. Support the work of the Conservation Trust, well, that's ongoing. Acquire land linking open space parcels, that's both. They have, and it is ongoing. You know, they bought key pieces, for example, on Drummer Cove to make a walkway that goes all the way around on the shore. So what do you say? Yes and yet ongoing. The bike trails, no, although they have a member, and Bruce himself is very into the bike thing, but he says it's just not an open space issue.
It's funny that there's an electrical easement that really goes straight through. It would be a great place to continue the bike trail. Because it starts at the Count Hollow Road.
Yeah.
You mean the
What do you mean
high-tension lines?
electrical?
Under
The Com Electric had an easement through when it was Com Electric. It's still and it goes straight north.
Yeah, they've looked at that for a bike trail, but it's not within the no more than 15% grade required for bike trail funding. It's too hilly
It
for
gets
bike
too
trail funding.
steep.
The ADA.
That makes sense.
It's already disturbed land. It would be perfect, but it's, you know,
Right.
yeah. So
Right. It's not that they don't believe in the bike trail plan, you know, working on a bike trail,
Right.
but they just don't feel
well, I think
that-
the bike
It
and
has
walkways
anything-
committee is now the starting point for discussions on this.
Right. So they would, in other words, Bruce said that shouldn't be under open space.
I agree.
So,
I agree.
continue to aggressively pursue parcels. He said, where are they? You know, but if there were one, we would, which was kind of amusing. So I guess that's ongoing, and that's the end. So,
All right.
I don't know. That's a mishmash. I'm sorry.
No, it's the whole matrix is kind of it veers wildly from small specific goals to
Yeah.
general huge goals.
You know, in looking through this, you know, you sometimes get the feeling that they're really reaching to fill up the paper.
Yeah, I said, I haven't looked at the previous comprehensive plan, but they may just have adopted the numbering system and then come up with the 2008 goals instead of what we're doing, because the commission has revamped the way they want it organized, is we're not gonna be tied to this matrix, but I do think we have to go through it as an exercise and look at the goals.
Sure.
Absolutely.
So we did.
Yes, we did. So thank you, Jan, and thank you, Mac. Oops. For this one. I'll get it. And next time, because it's 9:30 and we've come to our 60-minute time here, Jay, if you,
can do
both Jays,
transfers.
Jay and Jay,
Sure.
can do it next time.
Yep.
And I will let Jennifer know that she's off the hook until the first meeting in February.
Okay.
Okay? And Elaine is away in Mexico for 8 weeks, so somebody from the Housing Authority will be attending our meeting to substitute for her, and the selectmen were in agreement to that when they appointed her.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure who will appear, but
Yeah,
they will
I don't
appear.
know.
But the good thing about housing is we have a recent plan, and it requires that, the commission requires that community housing be a section, and we can put it in there with great assurance that the work has been done. We just need to put it in the plan, so. Any other questions, or
I move we adjourned.
Second.
non-debatable motion? All those in favor?
Uh,
All right, thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
See you in 2 weeks.